Welcome everyone to the show. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today we're going to talk about heart versus mind with my friend Bruce Langford. Bruce Langford is the host of the Mindfulness Mode podcast. And way early in the beginning of the Fit to Love podcast, he and I did an interview exchange then because I had relaunched the show about 6 months after because I didn't know what the heck I was doing in the beginning, quite honestly. And when I joined a group of podcasters, Bruce was one of the first people I connected with to help him in recording his show. So we've been doing it for a while, and he's always on the top of the charts, and his show is very successful. And if you haven't heard it, you'll get a taste of him today, but I would absolutely recommend that you check out Mindfulness Mode. Now, this conversation about heart versus mind has come up for me because in my Inner Circle membership, as well as the 30-day manifestation challenge group, I often poll people and ask what it is that they want. What do you guys need help with? What do you want to work on next? And one of the things that rose to the surface, quite honestly, was strengthening intuition. And that was a hot topic for both categories. So I thought today's show would be a great intro to thinking about if it's time to strengthen your intuition. We always talk about understanding concepts, but again, putting them into practice is something different. So I am holding a live 4-week class in June, and it doesn't have to be attended live. I give that as an option when I create the course so that those of you that want your questions answered or you want to go through these exercises that we're going to do from EFT to meditations to grounding exercises to clearing exercises, if you want to do them live in person with me, you have one option to do that. There's only one live class when I create a course, let's say for the astrology course, which by the way, you can purchase. You can go to jjflazanes.com/astrology, and that 5-week course is ready to be purchased. It won't be live. You can consume it at your own pace whenever you are ready, and you have access to it forever. The same thing will happen with strengthening your intuition. The difference is that I will record it live with you in June, and then when it's over, it'll be available for anyone to purchase later on. So if you're interested in strengthening intuition, we are in the early bird pricing, and this week is very unique. If you purchase this week before the 9th of May, and I even created a 3-pay for the early bird to make it super easy, you'll also get 3 months free in the Inner Circle membership, where there's group coaching, there's extra podcasts, there's swag, there's a book club, there's all kinds of fun stuff in the Inner Circle membership. So once again, until the end of this week, May 8th, if you sign up for the early bird pricing for the Strengthening Intuition course in June, you will also get 3 months free in the Inner Circle membership. And again, you can go to jjflazanes.com/intuition, and the link will also be in the show notes. So heart versus mind also felt like a really great topic for what we're doing right now, since there's so much information being passed around by people and many people feeling very strongly about being right about whatever they feel so strongly about. And a lot of that data is coming through the headspace. It's coming through data. It's coming through arguing facts. It's coming through wanting to take a position. But I believe a lot of it is disconnected from our heart. When we're in our heart and we're when we're trusting, we're actually not in fear. And when you're not in fear, you can see things more clearly and again, get those intuitive hits or those understandings or those clarifications that you don't get when you're just in your mind. So Bruce is going to take us through a couple of ways to get more into our heart and his journey into doing that as well. Bruce works full-time as a mindfulness coach, speaker, and podcaster. In 2003, he became passionate about helping bullied children when he saw the negative effects of bullying in the school where he taught. Bruce left the teaching profession and became a full-time entrepreneur, delivering anti-bullying, respect, and mindfulness presentations nationally and internationally. The connection between bullying and mindfulness is clear. Bullying declines when mindfulness is present. Bruce is also a co-writer with Brian Tracy, the best-selling book, Cracking the Success Code. Welcome back to the show, Bruce.
Great to be here, JJ. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show again.
You're welcome. Well, it was about time. I thought it was about time we reconnected. You and I have been on this podcasting journey together for quite some time. I believe it's been about 5 years. Definitely been 5 years for me. Is that about for you?
Yeah, that's right. It has been very close to that.
Yeah, well, 5 years ago, we were different people, right? We were talking about different things, maybe not totally different. I mean, you've had mindfulness mode this whole time, and I've had fit to love the whole time, but the evolution of our growth and expansion has been inevitable, and I wanted to reconnect with both you and your tribe and you and my tribe and share what's real for you right now. And I love when I asked you that question that you said heart versus mind.
That's right. And that's been kind of a revelation in a way because, I mean, I've always been a heart centered person, but I never realized that I needed to just surrender and let things happen so that I could share the part of me that is heart centered with other people, because there are other people that are yearning to learn what this means and how they can apply this to their lives. And so, fortunately, I've been able to do that. And that's very exciting to help people with that.
Let's talk about your journey over the last, I think we probably interviewed each other within that first year to 2 years. So let's say what's been real and happening for you and changing because of your show and mindfulness mode over the last 3 years.
Well, I think for one thing, I've learned a lot from the show because, you interview all these great scientists and top mindfulness people and very successful entrepreneurs and business people, and you can't help but learn so much about life and about how to be successful. So that's been very exciting. But I think I've learned a lot about me, learned a lot about how I can help other people. And a lot of that is by letting go, by surrendering. And I think for a while it was, yeah, I get that, but how do you truly do that? And I think learning how to surrender has been a big part of my journey in the last few years, JJ.
Do you want to give us some tips about what you've implemented to learn how to surrender?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just through continued meditation, just through the consistency of giving yourself the space, giving yourself the space to let things happen where you're not feeling like, oh, I have to accomplish this, I have to accomplish that, I have to make so much money, I have to do all these things. It's more like the opposite. It's more like just deciding, you know what? I'm just going to imagine I'm on a sabbatical. I'm just I'm just here to learn and to help people when the time is right, when people are comfortable approaching me, and just let things happen that way rather than try to push and push and push and make things happen. And I think through meditation and even through creating guided meditations, that has been a positive thing for me as well. So all of those things have helped me to kind of sink into who I really am and help me understand that I can help people be more heart centered. And sometimes people help me with the opposite. Sometimes I'm a little bit too heart centered. But just identifying the emotions that you're feeling and understanding that sometimes you just have to notice those emotions and certainly not let those emotions control you. That's the way life is for me now. It's not letting the emotions control me, just noticing them instead.
And in terms of the heart versus mind topic, had you had some experience with a lot of intellectual people that weren't allowing themselves to be heart centered? How did we stumble upon this as a focus right now for you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I have had a lot to do with people in that way. People that are in business, in corporate, and so on, and they just wanted help, and they realized that getting help in the field of mindfulness was probably a good thing, but they didn't really understand the difference between heart and mind and how their mind was really controlling them, and they were blocking out the messages their heart was giving them. And so yeah, I think that's the thing. And then I grew up in a situation in my family where uh, we didn't really put a lot of value in the heart centered part of it, the emotion. We kind of pushed that down. My parents maybe had a fear, or maybe based on, their experiences. I'm sure it was their experiences as they were growing up and going through some challenges. And so we ended up being a family where I think we feared our emotions. And that's not unusual, that's out there. And so helping people understand how to be open to heart, be open to your emotions, but not be controlled by them has really been a positive thing.
Usually there's an event that pushes us to reevaluate the way that we do things sometimes. And if it's not pushes, it's potentially a passion that pulls us forward, that we think things can be different. And I want to figure out how to do that. Was there an incident with your parents that, or noticing their behavior or their results that kind of led you into thinking about how do I incorporate more of that heart space into what I'm doing and into my life? In order for you to just sort of evaluate and sit back and look at, well, I wasn't really taught how to do this, but now I see there's value in that. How did you arrive at the conversation with yourself about that there is value in that?
Well, I think you're right. There are events that where those pivotal shifts happen. And I remember I really wanted to get to know my dad better. And he passed away in January. But in the last 3 or 4 years, I've really wanted to understand him more. And I mean, he loved music, and he had this urge to be more creative, but he didn't really know what that meant. I think he was a little bit afraid of that. And so, we'd talk about his music and about how much he liked to read and that kind of thing. And uh, one day I was visiting with him, and he was a man of few words. So when I went out to talk to him, it usually took 45 minutes to an hour to just kind of get him comfortable so that he'd share and become more open. And so I was sitting there, and at one point he leaned back in his chair and he said, "Bruce, I never had a friend." And that really hit me. And I thought to myself, wow. And I talked to him a little bit about that and how he felt he had worked his whole life so hard on the farm, and he had relationships with people who worked with him on the farm and helped him. And I mean, it was very family based. And years ago, of course, it was based in the church, and he'd go with his family to the church, and they would worship and so on, but he never truly felt like he had a friend in life. And so I think he wanted me to really think about that so that I would make sure that my life was different, that I had those connections, those heart connections with other people that really meant something. And so I think that was a pivotal moment for me when we had that discussion, and he was vulnerable enough to share his thoughts about that.
I probably would have cried in that moment if that's what had been told to me. I know I used to sit on the back of a bus. Well, I used to twirl baton kind of competitively when I was growing up and being like a dance troupe, and we would travel around and do things. And I remember my mom would come with us, and of course she was chaperoning me, and there were other moms whose children were younger and maybe in a different area of either their life path, being that they were all maybe younger than me or that they went to school together. And so I was a little bit of an outcast in that way. Like I wasn't connected to all of them. And so my mom wasn't necessarily connected to those moms. And I remember crying a couple times because I felt badly for her. Now my mother has plenty of friends, but I remember thinking, I feel badly that she doesn't have any friends here on the bus. Like she's not talking to anybody else. Like she's literally here dedicated to me.
Right.
And I felt badly about that. So I definitely can really feel in my heart, when your dad said that, that took a lot to say. So at that moment, did you have a life review of any kind and really think about how like your dad's life has shaped who you are? Because for someone that needed 45 minutes to feel comfortable, you're a talker, right, Bruce? I mean, you have a
Yes.
podcast. And so how did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For a long time in my life, I felt like I didn't have a voice. I felt like nobody really wanted to hear my voice or wanted to hear what I had to say. And so I developed that. I grew into that. So, yeah, that's absolutely true. I I learned a lot from that moment and thought a lot about that and thought, yeah, I want to get out there and be more connected to people. I mean, I get to know so many people on my podcast, but I wanted to have more connections in my own community. And so I I went about making that a reality, making that happen. So yeah, it was interesting how that changed the trajectory of what I was doing, my everyday activities, and how I live my life, because I just really wanted to have those heartfelt connections.
And to start a show like Mindfulness Mode, I don't know that you and I ever talked about the reason why you started your show. Why did you start your show?
Well, I started my show because I used to work in bullying prevention, and then I was totally immersed in that. I absolutely loved it. I had created musical programs, and I would go out into schools and do all these programs to teach children about, well, it was about bullying, stand up against bullying. And then I realized very quickly that it was important to teach the kids about respect. What does respect even mean, and why would you even want to be respectful? And if you can understand those things, then bullying will start to decline on its own. And then, of course, I realized very early on as well that if you could teach children and teachers what it means to be mindful, what mindfulness is all about, then bullying will just naturally decrease and respect will naturally increase. And so then I realized that there are so many people out there who do practice mindfulness, and that's why they are successful in life, whatever success means to them. And so I wanted to share with people from all walks of life what it truly means to be mindful. And I wanted to do that by interviewing people from all over the world. And I wanted to create that connection between science and mind and heart. And that's what I've done, because I've interviewed a lot of scientists and a lot of people who are creative as well, and operate from the heart, and as well people who operate from the mind. So I feel like I've really been able to make those connections real for my listeners, and they reach out to me. I hear from people all the time who listen to my podcast and find it's been a tremendous help, and they want me to continue on in more depth and to coach them. And so that's why I meet so many incredible people just who send me an email and say, hey, can we talk for a few minutes? Because I always put on my podcast, hey, let's have a 30-minute chat. Just email me, bruce@mindfulnessmode.com, and we'll have a 30-minute chat. There's no obligation. There's no pressure. It's not a sales pitch. It's just, let's just talk about mind and heart, and what's working for you in your life and what isn't working for you in your life. And yeah, maybe I can help you further, maybe not. Maybe that half-hour chat makes a big difference to you, and that's where it can end. But that's how I've met so many people, and just received really positive feedback about how I'm able to help people in their lives with this whole topic of mindfulness and mind versus heart and all of this kind of thing.
Well, that's why your show is doing so well and why you're still doing it, because it's impacting many people. So what would be some symptoms, do you think, that people could identify themselves having if they're someone who's too stuck in their mind and not enough in their heart?
Well, that's easy. The symptom is that people get their minds focused on, getting a new car, getting a beautiful new home, getting, a vacation home or several homes around the world, or whatever these material things are. And they push, 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 work, work, work until they get some of these things. And there's very often a moment in time when those successful people, and I say successful, meaning in their minds, they're successful because they've had their eye on these goals and they've reached the target, and suddenly something happens and they break down and they realize that there's something dreadfully missing in their life, and that even though they have all these material things that they were going after, that something's wrong. something's missing deep inside them. Some deep level of meaning is just not there. And that seems to be when people, they happen to be listening to my podcast, or, they've heard about mindfulness or something, and they realize that, hey, maybe I can figure out what that missing link is just by talking to Bruce and spending some time, because people get the feeling by listening to my show that they can learn some of those deeper lessons in life.
Now, what about some simple tools, maybe practices, mantras? What would people do to quickly get from their mind into their heart?
Well, I think one of the biggest difficulties is that people get tied up in judging situations or judging people, and they can create a lot of negativity. We can all do it. I can very easily do this. I can create negativity in my own mind by noticing a person or a situation and thinking, that really bugs me, that really upsets me, that really eats me up. I wish that situation were different, or that person did not act like that, or whatever. And so what I like to do is just stop myself the instant I notice that I'm doing that, and think to myself, okay, let me notice what I've just been thinking. And secondly, how would it feel if I let that go? How would it feel if it were possible to just completely eliminate those thoughts from my mind? And then the third step after how would it feel is, oh, let me just do it. I can just do that right now. And so I will just let go of that. And so the first step is noticing. The second step is imagining how it would feel if I could let those thoughts go. And the third step is making the decision to actually let the thoughts go. And it sounds so simple. And I find that some of the most effective tools are the tools that are very simple, but it is simple and effective. So don't underestimate the power of a tool like that, that can let you relax in life and give you more contentment, give you more of a level of peace in your life, simply by letting go.
We talked about this on your show when you interviewed me recently for your show as well. That, for me, I have all these tools that I use all the time for different things. And one particular law of attraction tool that I shared at the Manifestation Boot Camp back in October of 2019, that I even second guessed. Like, I gave it a short window of time to do it at the event. And I realized as we were doing it, how powerful it was for people. This one simple tool, that I gave it double the amount of time during the seminar, because I thought, oh, this is working and they're really getting a lot out of this. We should continue doing this. So I know firsthand what you're talking about in terms of don't underestimate this simple tool. And what I love about your simple tool is that when you can encourage people even just to question themselves in that moment, you're pulling them into an observer state of being, which already is a form of mindfulness, right? They're not in the drama. They're not sucked into this energy vortex of negativity and drama if they're able to, for a second, take a step back. I mean, that practice in itself is what creates consciousness, is what can be mindfulness, where we're actually aware of our thoughts and feelings in the moment, and we're evaluating it in the moment to see if we want to make the choice. It's giving us the power to continue that moment or to shift that moment. So I think that's a perfect tool.
Oh, yeah. I found it's been so effective, and it's really helped a lot of my clients as well. And I was speaking at a conference in Atlanta, Georgia, a consciousness conference, and I met so many great people. And one of them was John Hagelin. He's a PhD. Dr. John Hagelin was featured in the movie The Secret a number of years ago. But to meet him and talk to him, and then, of course, interview him, I was able to interview him for my show. It was just absolutely fascinating some of his insight that he shared about letting go and releasing some of these things that hold us back in life. And I mean, what we all want is contentment, really, isn't it? We want a peace in our life. We want contentment. Yes, we want to have success, whatever that means to us. But if we can use a few simple tools and maybe spend some time talking to somebody who can help us with those things and maybe sees life a little bit differently, then we can move forward in our own life. So that's why I like coaching so much, JJ. It just seems so fulfilling to help other people. I'm sure you probably feel the same way.
Absolutely. I love being able to take someone who's seen multiple therapists and hasn't had any relief. And after one session, we nail it. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's all I needed. And
Yeah.
because it's part of what I do in the collection of tools, just like with you. And I know they resonate with you and they're reaching out to you, especially with the offer, which is a very generous offer of just having a 30-minute chat with you. Let's talk about your process and who it is that you help and what are they coming to you for and who would be the right fit for you.
I help a lot of CEOs. I help a lot of people who are in corporate, they're in business. I help a lot of project leaders who have teams, a lot of people who are leaders in the world in one way or another. And actually many of us are leaders. I mean, entrepreneurs are leaders, but a lot of the people I help are in the corporate world and they've been living through their mind to a great degree, and many of them have met with huge levels of success. You know, they've made a lot of money. They have homes, and they have, you know, vacation spots and all these kinds of things, but they feel like something is missing, and they have this inkling. Some of them have this inkling that it's through mindfulness or it's through some kind of connection to the heart or some kind of connection to creativity. And a lot of them, and it's interesting, you know, when they hear my show or they hear me talk or you know, they're connected with me one way or another, they have this idea that I can help them. And fortunately, I can help them. So those are a lot of the people that I work with.
And if someone's listening to this and they're part of my tribe and they're going to go check out Mindfulness Mode for sure, the podcast with Bruce, but they're interested in having that 30-minute call with you, how do they sign up for that?
Just send me an email, Bruce at mindfulnessmode.com. And, you know, just mention that you heard me on the show, on JJ's show, and that you'd like to have the 30-minute chat, and we'll just arrange. I'll send you a link and you can just grab a time and we'll make it happen.
And if there are people who are maybe they're not ready for the 30-minute call, but they want more information from you, is the podcast the next best place, or is there any kind of downloadable programs or PDFs that you may have?
Yeah, the podcast is a great place, mindfulnessmode.com. And you can also download something from me, which can help with your level of peace and contentment. And it's a guided meditation. Just go to mindfulnessmode.com/calm, CALM, and you will receive a free guided meditation. And also, I will send you some more information and thoughts about how to gain contentment in your life through mindfulness.
Awesome. So everybody get your mindfulnessmode.com/calm free meditation. Bruce, what is next for you?
Well, I'm just very excited about because I'm going to be doing more work in the corporate space. I'm going to be doing more consulting, so spending more time with that, doing a little bit more coaching as well, and just really uh, developing my skills as a coach and working in this mindfulness space. It's so exciting. I love creating content and putting it out there for people and just helping other people thrive in the world. So that's what makes me happy.
And what would you say was one of the maybe biggest ahas or success stories of someone who learned to live more from their heart versus their mind that you've worked with?
Well, I worked with a woman who was a project leader in a corporation in Germany, and just she felt this level of loneliness. She felt this feeling that she was isolated, even though she was not isolated physically. She had her team of about 200 people working under her, and she had, a very busy, active life. She had a family. She was always on the go and always with people, but she felt somehow as though she wasn't connecting to people deeply enough. She felt that her life had a superficial quality to it, and she didn't quite know why. And so as we talked, and I helped her with some of the tools that I help my clients with, and each week she'd work on some of these tools to help her have more connection with people and help her have more connection with herself and her own thoughts and what mattered to her in life. And after 6 months of working with me, she sent me a note, and she said, like, it just was a realization today when I was doing my gratitudes that I am extremely grateful for how much you've changed my life in the last 6 months so that I could feel content and satisfied in my life, and that I'm truly the kind of leader I have always wanted to be. So I found that very gratifying that she reached out to me that way and connected to tell me how much of a transformation really that she had in 6 months.
That's amazing. And definitely worth, right? Like what we're doing to be able to reach people and get out there and make transformation and really bring peace of mind and that level of emotional freedom as well as mindfulness. I mean, there's no other word for it really, is
Yes.
being into that space. So that's amazing. So mindfulnessmode.com is the best place to learn more about Bruce, to check out his show. Of course, you can find it on all the places where you get podcasts, to get your free downloaded meditation at mindfulnessmode.com /calm, CALM, and sending Bruce an email to have a 30-minute chat. If it speaks to you and you'd like some help, definitely reach out to him and let him know you heard him on JJ's show, or if you're a client of mine that you work with me as well. And let's move the needle here on connecting more of our heart with our mind, reducing the amount of mental intellectual activity that we have, and really coming from that heart space. Because I'm sure you've had on experts that have talked about like Heart Math Institute or the intellect of our heart, right? And coming from that space and really taking us out of and connecting our whole body, not just living in our heads, being disconnected from really the source of really a lot of our intuition and intellect and our feeling center, just really all that divine intellect and that lives in our heart that we often don't take seriously. We take it for granted.
Yeah, we really do. And I think it's so interesting what Johnny Depp said. He said, you can close your eyes to things you don't want to see, but you can't close your heart to things you don't want to feel. And so many times we feel feelings that don't feel quite right, and we try to push them away, when in fact, it's a signal to us that we should be opening up our heart, noticing those emotions, and then moving forward with them. So it's just really interesting how when we open up and are open to what our heart is telling us, we can really become more the person we want to be.
Yes, and that's my goal too, is to help
I know
people.
it is.
Yep. So we're helping the world hopefully be more mindful, conscious, heart-centered, and spread more love and heal more things and make more change and really return us back to our original blueprint of love and joy and freedom, versus get caught up in the sort of momentum of life of fear and scarcity and all the things that really take us out of fear, take us out of love and joy and freedom and connection and mindfulness. Bruce, I enjoyed talking with you. I enjoy your show. I enjoy the work you're doing in the world, and I hope more people will reach out and will get involved and will open themselves up to be more mindful, to be more conscious, and to know that they have the power within themselves to change anything that they want. It just takes one step at a time. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
And thank you, JJ. I appreciate what you're doing in the world. Thanks so much for all the people you're helping through your live events and your podcast and all the content you put out there. Thank you.